Waters are fast-moving.
Unlike other big rallies,
Cockpit earlier at about 7 a.m. A group from the Coast Guard.
Welcome to #PHVote 2013.
Today on Rappler.
Our goal is not to counter China. Our goal is not to contain China.
U.S. President Barack Obama makes no categorical commitment to defend the Philippines over its territorial dispute with China.
I want to reiterate what it will not do. It will not reopen U.S. bases.
The Philippines and the United States sign a military deal which allows American troops more access to Philippine military facilities. And a survey shows Filipinos believe the government is not doing enough to ease inflation and poverty. Hello, I'm Chai Hofelenia, sitting in for Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. U.S. President Barack Obama is in Manila Monday for a two-day state visit. Obama arrives for an overnight stay with an expanded bilateral agreement meeting on defense and security as his main agenda. In his meeting with President Benigno Aquino, the two leaders discuss issues on trade and security cooperation, among others. We have Natasha Gutierrez on the phone to report on the Obama visit.
For the first time in nearly 11 years, a sitting U.S. president visits the Philippines in an effort by the United States to prove its rebalancing foreign policy to focus in Asia is still intact. As expected, defense and security issues are the main focus of talks between U.S. President Barack Obama and Philippine President Benigno Aquino. Just hours before the visit, the two countries signed the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or ECDA, a military deal that will give American troops wider access to military bases here. The signing comes amid ongoing tensions between the Philippines and China over disputed territories in the West Philippine Sea. But at the joint press conference after the two countries' bilateral meeting, Obama insists the focus is not on China.
Our goal is not to counter China. Our goal is not to contain China. Our goal is to make sure that international rules and norms are respected. And that includes in the area of maritime disputes.
Obama also says it supports the Philippines' peaceful route to resolve its disputes with China, but he did not say the U.S. would defend the Philippines if it were attacked by China.
We don't even take a specific position on the disputes between nations. But as a matter of international law and international norms, we don't think that coercion and intimidation is the way to manage these disputes.
His statements are seen to be not as strong as the pronouncements he made in Japan, which is also involved in a territorial dispute with China. In Tokyo, Obama vowed to protect Japan if it were attacked by the superpower. Aside from security and defense, the two leaders also promised to partner together to help victims of Typhoon Yolanda and help sustain the country's economic growth. Aquino describes his meeting with Obama.
Our meeting today was comprehensive, historic, and significant, embodying our shared values and aspirations. It accorded President Obama and myself the opportunity to build on the relations between our countries and discuss our strategic vision for the future of the Philippines-United States relationship, a relationship that is modern, mature, and forward-looking, and one that allows us to surpass challenges towards the benefit of our peoples, the entire region, and the world. If at the end of the day, we do want to strive for the prosperity of our respective peoples, that I think has to be the primordial concern, rather than disputes on a few rocks that are not possible to be inhabited.
Obama will spend the second day of his trip with Filipino troops at the military headquarters in Taguig and is expected to visit the World War II American Cemetery in the same city before returning to the United States. Back to you, Chai.
Natasha, today is a very, very important day as far as bilateral relations are concerned. There have been reactions to the agreement that was signed today. Senators seem intent on questioning the legality and constitutionality of the EDCA, which was signed between the Philippines and the U.S. What has been Malacanang's reaction, or how is Malacanang handling this situation?
Yes, that's true. We've heard dissenting opinions today. Malacanang has consistently insisted, though, that the agreement is constitutional and that both sides have taken care of making sure of that. The main argument is that the EDCA does not allow additional U.S. bases and will only implement past treaties and deals like the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty or the Visiting Forces Agreement. So this is exactly why Obama emphasized at the joint press conference today that there will be no reopening of bases or creation of new U.S. bases. Instead, and this is what he kept on focusing on, there will only be increased rotational presence of American troops, which America argues has already been ongoing. So the executive has been citing this fact and also mentioning the fact that it took 8 rounds of talks before the countries even reached an agreement, proving that 1, it's not rushed, and 2, that they have made sure all parts of it are legal. Both presidents appeared more careful. I mean, both presidents appeared more careful and cautious about what the contents of the agreement were. Obviously, we don't know yet exactly what's in it, but they obviously did not disclose too much information, but they emphasized what they needed to, and that was enough to kind of, quell the fears today. And the emphasis really was there are no new U.S. bases. We've heard it several times, and that there's nothing new being introduced here.
Okay, that's an interesting point that you make there. I think a lot of people noticed it, that the presidents were a little more careful and a little more cautious in their statements. But do you think this was something that was deliberate, and what effect would this have on the balance of powers in the region?
Absolutely. I absolutely think this was deliberate. If you recall, after Obama's statement in Japan, wherein he vowed support for Japan if it were attacked by China, immediately after, China voiced very strong opposition to his proclamation and said the treaty that Obama based his judgment on is actually one that was formed during the Cold War. In fact, 2 Chinese Coast Guard ships sailed into the waters around the disputed islands of Japan the day after Obama's statement. So you could see that the incredible effect of this one statement Obama made in Japan. So was he more cautious here? Yes, absolutely. In fact, I think Obama surprised the world with his statement in Japan. Obama's categorical comment in Tokyo was actually in contradiction to what the U.S. has consistently been saying, specifically that it does not take sides in territorial disputes. So today we actually heard that again. He said that again. And we saw that message emphasized. He returned to the original messaging of the U.S., and we even heard him say that the focus is not to support intimidation and coercion. And he stuck with that today, understandably. We don't want to see any ships coming in the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea tomorrow, and I don't think you have to worry about that. And as for the effect of the agreement on regional powers, Aquino himself says there is no reason for China to feel threatened. Again, we hear more cautious Aquino. We heard a more cautious Aquino today. He also admitted the Philippines is not a military threat to any country. Even Obama, as we heard earlier, insisted the agreement is not about Japan. So the effect of this is actually quite tricky, but I think the more important thing to look at right now is that this agreement is beneficial for both the U.S. and the Philippines. One, the U.S. wants to have a bigger presence in Asia. It will achieve that through this agreement, and at the same time, the Philippines gets what it wants. It wants support to at least modernize its defense, and so we see that, and definitely. It's something that China is keeping an eye on, but is China threatened? I think that by sailing 2 Coast Guard ships in Japan the day after Obama's statement, they're saying, wait a minute, we're not threatened, this is our power, and kind of exerted it.
Okay, I'd like to shift now to something light. I think we had a state dinner, or I don't know if it's still ongoing at this time. What was the overall mood? Could you describe to us what people were talking about, and how did they look like?
Well, the state visit today was actually quite refreshing. It was still formal. Obviously, everybody came in their best attire. Most Filipino guests came in national costume, either Filipiniana or barong. Everyone looked very good. In fact, President Obama himself even mentioned that. He said, told the men they all looked good, but that the women outshone them. Mm-hmm. So we saw tonight a more casual Obama, which was quite refreshing since, we only saw a very formal attitude today. But tonight, he really charmed the guests at the state visit. He used Filipino words and greetings. He said magandang gabi. He used the word kalooban and saying that the Philippines and the U.S. have a shared kalooban or spirit in its common interests. And those common interests he mentioned were an obsession with basketball, Manny Pacquiao, and the pride they have for Filipino Americans. So it was quite nice to see, one of the most powerful leaders in the world kind of praised the Philippines. You know, he even hailed the victims of Typhoon Yolanda for their strength and determination. We saw a more casual side of him, and he said that he enjoyed this visit very much and that it left a mark on him. So this is a great end to what has been a very busy day, and his praise for the Philippines and their warmth and hospitality, I think, would also, you know, make the president and Filipinos feel good for the fact that President Obama was able to notice this and recognize this.
Okay, just looking at that video, I think a lot of people noticed that the president toasted with water. Why is that?
Well, actually, one thing maybe that a lot of people might not know about the president is the president does not drink. He actually is allergic to alcohol. He smokes, but he does not drink. So that is probably the reason why he was holding water tonight in the toast.
Thank you very much. That was Natasha Gutierrez reporting from Malacanang. Both President Obama and Aquino take a softer stance when asked about the Philippines' territorial row with China. The two leaders say they prefer to resolve issues through diplomacy rather than coercion and force. Obama says even the United States has territorial disputes with its closest allies.
I suspect that there are some islands and rocks are in and around Canada and the United States, but we don't go around sending ships and threatening folks. What we do is we sit down and we have some people in a room. It's boring, it's not exciting, but it's usually a good way to work out these problems and work out these issues. Why is it that everybody's so eager to use military force?
Aquino takes a similar attitude, saying the territorial dispute is, quote, the only sour point in the Philippines' relationship with China.
We are not a threat militarily to any country. We don't even have, and I have said this often enough, we don't even have presently a single fighter aircraft in our inventory. I think no country should begrudge us our rights to be able to attend to our concerns and our needs. There has to be stability. And they in turn have responded that the disputes in the South China Sea, West Philippine Sea are not the end-all and be-all of our relationships. And we have had good cooperation with them in so many different fronts. And perhaps one can even argue that this is the only sore point in our relationship.
Hours before Obama's arrival in Manila, the Philippines and the United States signed an Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA. The EDCA allows American troops more access to Philippine military facilities. Philippine Ambassador Lourdes Iparaguirre says there is no ceiling for the number of American troops who can visit the Philippines.
It's an initial term of 10 years, but there will be regular consultations between the two parties to review the implementation of the agreement.
The EDCA also allows the U.S. to construct facilities, upgrade infrastructure, and store defense and disaster preparedness equipment. The buildings and infrastructure will become Philippine property. U.S. Ambassador to Manila, Philip Goldberg, says the U.S. does not intend to set up military bases in the Philippines.
I want to reiterate what it will not do. It will not reopen U.S. bases. The EDCA will increase training opportunities for U.S. and Philippine forces, which will contribute to increased interoperability. It will also support the shared goal of promoting the long-term modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines, and will help the AFP maintain and develop additional maritime security, maritime domain awareness, and humanitarian assistance and disaster relief capabilities.
Defense Secretary Walter Guzman adds the deal reflects a maturing relationship between the allies. The details of the framework agreement will be negotiated and announced at a later date. Some sectors criticized the negotiations, saying the talks were not transparent. The EDCA is seen as the most significant part of Obama's Philippine visit. The Philippines earlier sought military assistance from the U.S. to boost its weak defenses as the U.S. refocuses its attention on Asia. Burning American flags in effigy of Barack Obama, expect these and more during Obama's two-day visit. Militant groups staged protests against the military deal between the Philippines and the U.S. The militant group Bagong Alyansang Makabayan, or Bayan, says the agreement is, quote, nothing but a clear one-sided pact for the sole benefit of the Obama administration and not for the Filipino people. Environmental groups also hit Obama's Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP agenda, which aims to eliminate trade barriers in the Asia-Pacific region. The Kalikasan People's Network for the Environment says the TPP will allow the entry of toxic corporations in the Philippines by removing trade, environment, and safety regulations on the entry of foreign investment in member countries. Senator Miriam Santiago says the signing of the military deal between the Philippines and the United States without Senate approval is a sign of bad faith. Criticizing what she calls guile in diplomacy, Santiago says the agreement should have been first submitted to the Senate. The deal gives U.S. troops increased access to Philippine military bases and allows them to construct facilities in these bases. Santiago says the deal lacked transparency and that the Senate should not have been kept in the dark. But the executive branch says the agreement does not provide for U.S. bases and merely implements past treaties and deals. A survey reveals Filipinos believe the Aquino administration is still not doing enough to ease inflation and poverty in the country. Based on the March 2014 Pulse Asia survey, 26% of Filipinos approve of government efforts to control inflation, while 34% disapprove of it, for a net approval rating of -8%. This is an improvement over the December 2013 survey results, when the government scored 28% approval and 44% disapproval. In terms of poverty alleviation, 30% of Filipinos approve of government efforts, while 26% disapprove, for a net approval rating of +4%. The administration gets majority approval ratings on two issues: fight against criminality and peace efforts. For the first time in Vatican history, two former popes were canonized on the same day. On Sunday, Pope Francis proclaimed Pope John Paul II and Pope John XXIII new saints of the Catholic Church. Thousands gathered at the Vatican City to watch the historic canonization. In Manila, Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle led the Philippine tribute to the new saints. In his homily, Tagle said, "The canonization is a proclamation to the world that holiness is real."
For those of us who say, ang hirap magpakabanal, the canonization of people whom we know, people who are part of our generation, is a declaration. Holiness is real. Yang katabi ninyo, sa maniwala kayo't hindi, pwede santo o santa yan. Kahit yan.
Tagle also urged Filipinos to treat each other with respect and mercy.
No human society or community and no nation can be built on any other foundation except mercy, compassion, love. If you are a recipient of God's mercy, show that mercy. Do not be unjust. Do not trample on the dignity of children, of women, of the poor.
Pope John Paul II visited the Philippines twice. John XXIII is credited for ushering in a wave of reforms in the Church by convening the Second Vatican Council. Let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 6, the death toll in Saudi Arabia from the Middle East respiratory syndrome exceeds 100 on Sunday. Authorities scrambled to reassure the public as the rapid rise in the number of deaths from the respiratory infection fuels concern. 39 people died in April, over a third of the 102 deaths registered since the virus emerged in April 2012. As of April 24, the World Health Organization reported 254 laboratory-confirmed cases of infections, 93 of which resulted in death worldwide. At number 8, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says the mass killing of Jews in the Holocaust was, quote, the most heinous crime against humanity in the modern era. The statement comes at a sensitive time for U.S.-led peace efforts, with Israel suspending talks after Abbas reached an agreement with the Islamist Hamas movement to form a unity government. Although Abbas condemned the Holocaust in the past, his attitude came under heavy scrutiny since the early 1980s when he questioned the number of Jews killed in his doctoral thesis. And at number 10, George Clooney is off the market. E! News and People magazine report the 52-year-old actor is engaged to lawyer Amal Alamuddin. Alamuddin was spotted with a ring on her left hand while vacationing in Malibu. Alamuddin is a trilingual lawyer who specializes in international law, human rights, extradition, and criminal law. The two have been dating since 2013. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the page. It crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories with the most clicks. For today, let's take a look. The biggest circle here is, as it happens, Obama visits Manila on day 1. This is actually our live stream for today's day 1 of President Obama's visit. Another green spot is 2 popes canonized. This is the twin canonizations were held yesterday, Sunday, and this was a major event as far as the Catholic Church is concerned. And then we also have Obama in Manila, which had 75% happy. Another green circle here is Cedric Lee, or accused, and his co-accused arrested, with 82% happy. And the Philippines and the U.S. signing an agreement, the military agreement, getting 86% people happy. Let's look for some other colors on our mood navigator. The sole red color here in the middle is who stole the UP sunflowers. Yesterday was the UP graduation, and this was a story about a family cutting sunflowers, which is usually part of the graduation. So this had 60% people angry. Overall, today, if we sum up all the emotions, today most people are happy. That's Rappler's newscast for today, Monday, April 28, 2014. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Chai Hofilenya. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.